Okay, good afternoon for everyone. Okay, as Horace mentioned, my name is Juarez da Silva. I'm from the São Carlos Institute of Chemistry, University of São Paulo, and also as a PI of the Division 4, and also act as a scientific committee coordinator of the center. As was mentioned here a few times already, I was mentioned already. For example, the Division 4 has quite a very important role in the center as concerned as like a horizontal division. I put a slide here. I'm not too much horizontal in this picture, okay? I'm in a corner of a triangle, in which we try, okay, to say our role in the center, that to provide some, say, to address problems that are addressed in another three divisions, but at the same time make some brainstorms concern theory, concern itself, also simulations, and the way you can help to explain experiments that are high-level experiments, that is to say, to address atomic understanding, why those materials, how they are binding together, and why they have those type of properties, okay? And then our division is organized. I show here just how it's organized, the division here, before. Basically, as mentioned before, we have here the hub, Cine hub, that's coordinated here in the camp. Then we have the PI here, but then here also have the co-PIs too, act as executive committee here too. And then you have the supporting team that is the state located in the São Carlos Institute of Chemistry, part of it, also part in the São Paulo, in this FUSP, the USP Foundation. And then this is how he provides a clear perspective on the numbers of members of that is working now on the Division 4. Some numbers oscillating, but it changes semester by semester because new students come in, normally in the graduate program in Brazil. And then here we have the 5 projects we have that go from 16 to 20, which complete the number 20 here. That goes, basically all the projects we have the PIs acting here, also the co-PIs, the associate investigators, and the students. The average number of faculty members involved in each project is 3, except in the project number 19 that we have 4 faculty members that are involved in that case because of the complexity of the situation on the energy storage. Then we go from methane conversion, okay, and try to address this using 2 different types of systems, like, for example, transition metal particles and also zeolites, no porous materials. And then we are also discussing concern to make a contribution and the CO2 capture and also CO2 reduction, okay, and using different types of materials. Then we have a project that goes to, in the case, we are exploring photovoltaic materials, based chalcogenides and also perovskites, and also dye-synthesized materials. And then you have a project here that goes for energy storage, basically batteries and supercapacitors. We have 2 this case too. That's the main contribution that side. And then we have one project that we call is a cross-boundary to get all of the projects that also can help out the experimental projects too. That's related to my application of the machine learning and data mining to address, to analyze large amount of data and how to explore a large amount of data that you obtain from the quantum chemistry simulations, because it can be very helpful nowadays. Okay? Along of the, basically what you have here, for example, all those faculty members that are involved in the project, their expertise goes from quantum chemistry, basically using dense functional theory, or I would say Hartree-Fock methods, capital cluster, and so on. And then go to more a bit high level, to low level, this case here, that reactive force fields, in which you can address the breaking of bonds. This is like a 3rd generation force fields. Then it goes up to the also atomic molecular dynamics based on 2nd generation, 1st generation force fields. And then goes also helps also expertise in computational fluid dynamics. And also when you can also make also coarse grain force fields, and then you can try. One of the challenges that we have here between all those techniques that you can have on the team, the long-term run that you want to address is how to combine different techniques and different boxes here, for example, quantum chemistry, molecular dynamics, or coarse grain to computational fluid dynamics, in the way you can try to go to different time scale and length scale to address more large and specific problems and make a large, we'll say, how to go from atomic to build up an understanding for a device application, especially when you look at the scene. You are looking for basic science for a period of time, but for the long time run, you also have to look for more applied problems. In that case, the combination of those techniques is crucial for that part of the division, and then we have a goal to go in this direction along of the process, along of the time of the 5 years. But of course, we are already using computational fluid dynamics and other things too, but in applied separate project, we want to combine that. Okay? Along this, the division itself, for example, once we start to work on that problems, on that 5 initial projects, basically once we receive you was selected as one of the divisions of CINE, we start to work on that project. It means that we start to work on that basically in January, February 2018. And of course, because of that, we are also, there's a case too, because some of us are already working on those type of problems for a few years already, in the case of materials science, applied in the computational material science. And then here, for example, along the last 2 years, since the beginning, maybe from March to up to now, we have published 17 publications. There's what we selected here that indicate here. These ones are the only publications that selected straight connected with the subject that we have here. There are some papers that submitted, and there are several papers that is also in progress to be concluded this year. And I also here give some, say, a perspective on what type of magazines we are publishing our work. And then, of course, I'm not going to cover all those work here. I'm going to just give a highlights what part that's important that you are doing, that we did, and what we are doing for the future now. Okay? Based on the project, for the first project that we have here, we have the following situation. Basically, we have the project 16, in which we want to address the selective conversion of methane to high-density carriers based on porous and nanomaterials. When we would say porous materials, we are thinking about zeolites, but we are also open for more complex porous materials like carbon materials too. We have also this case that we are going to start in future too. And then you have another case that for the nanomaterials, we are just basically here looking for transition metals, finite-sized particles. Basically, we are looking for binary systems, unary systems, when also ternary systems too, when you combine two or three, up to 3 or more chemical species to try to control how the things happen, how to change, tune the properties of those particles. And then in that case, which is here, I just show here some work that's in progress. Basically, goes on directly shown by Fabio before. Basically, the CH4 dehydrogenation. In that case, we are using a very simple model. It is a transition metal particle composed of 13 atoms. And then the idea is to build up here. We are doing this for a large number of materials, of transition metals. But the idea is to try to build up an understanding and knowledge of the fundamental mechanisms that drive the breaking of the CH4, how you can extract the first hydrogen, and then and so on to move on, how you can play those binding magnitude, and then to see how you can improve and what material could be more suitable for. Sorry, this one is here. And then this one is done by, there's a work is leading by Carlos, a postdoc, supported by FAPESP, Priscilla is a PhD student, Vinicius undergraduate student by myself too. Then we are also pushing this different direction in the case of porous materials. This work is now in progress, done by Bassin, a PhD student, Sara, a postdoc, and Sara is a PhD student too, and Ana Paula is a postdoc, and also Talpa, with my collaboration too. And that's crazy, we are exploring the zeolites here. What we want to address here, basically, we start with a simple, we build up models to reproduce and to describe zeolites with a finite size particles, and then we have to see what size of particle is suitable to describe the properties of zeolites in a good way, and also at the same time, how to describe also the reactions too, and then also to test also different techniques concern the description, the quantum description of those systems, the way you can get reliable results. This all work is in progress. There's a paper that's in progress on that moment now. And then here, for example, at the same time, we are also doing the parameterization of force field to describe to include on the simulations tau2 the effect of temperature, and in that case we need to improve the description by force fields, and that's our example here that are in progress. The model was just, this calculation was just run by the Professor Gustavo and his students the last 2 months. With the base is a mixture of methane with methanol, and then a way to describe how you can obtain a good description of those type of fluid inside of zeolites here too. This case here, just a prototype, just a toy simulation just to verify if the force field is suitable to provide a good description for that case. This is a very important situation for us at the moment. Then, here in the project number 17, we have here the capture and also reduction of homogeneous and heterogeneous pores and nanomaterials. Basically, we are looking here in 3 different directions, basically. First one, we want to make the capture of CO2. This work is led by Kaline Coutinho, the Institute of Physics in São Paulo, USP, in a way that she's using metal-organic frameworks in the way based on to how to capture CO2 from air. Okay, there's a quite good challenge because in there's a large humidity, and it means that you can get all CO2 and get water and so on. and there's how we can explore those power materials that could work to absorb the CO2, to capture CO2. Of course, it's a quite good challenge here. And then we are also looking at the reduction of CO2. We are looking now in two different perspectives. One is to use bio-inspired metal complexes, another one is transition metal particles, also chalcogenides, also in our perspective for the future. Why? Because we want to have a sustainable way how to use CO2 and the way that it could contribute to decrease the abatement of the CO2 in the atmosphere and so on. In that case here, I show here the first work that's in progress. This work here basically is done. The paper is in progress at the moment, and with Antonio, his group in São José do Rio Ribeirão Preto, USP, they basically studied the reaction, basically the reaction using fitting of the potential in the surface with CO2 by a single atom of iron. This is quite important too, because if there was a single atom, you cannot model a system that catalyzes a single atom, but you have to see that recent results in the last years show that you have a single atom catalysis that's supported on a support, and this one could be a first perspective how to look at that problem. It's a very simple model, however, it provides a very good perspective because you can do a very high-level simulation in that case and to establish the technique, how it works, and after that you can go for a more complex case. And then beyond of that, he also is doing the systems also to the reactor reduction too, using bio-inspired metal complexes. We have a good perspective too, and try to explore different metals here that could affect and also as well the different type of ligands and also how to control the charge transfer and so on. Of course, here I show some of just few highlights what have been achieved in the last months, and then the future, the challenge that have to be overcome, and how we are moving on in this direction. Okay, and then further on here, the work concern that is done in São Carlos. Basically, what you have here is our different perspectives how to explore the CO2 absorption basically on different metals, 3D metals, 4D metals, and also to explore size effects concerned when you change the size of the particles, how it affects the absorption. Because the absorption in this case is the initial step, how to start to affect the electronic structure of CO2. Because basically, CO2 is a linear molecule. But once you absorb in a metal surface or a metal particle fine size system, it gets bending, and then because you have some charge transfer from the metal to the molecule, and this one you affect the one of the bond lengths, you start to get a bit longer, and the process start how to break it. And the fact here just show the initial steps. The future here that we are looking for is how to make the reaction itself, to make the breaking of the CO2 and to combine it with oxygen and so on from different compounds too. But in this case, we explore 3D systems, 4D systems, and also different particles of different sizes. I just show here one example that is basically cobalt, but you are exploring this in a wide range of materials. Okay, just to show one example that we are looking for. And here I show the case of the CO2 capture. There's a quite good challenge here. The basic question that we have here is the following: how the surface condition and humidity affect the CO2 absorption in metal graphene frameworks. This is the initial question that you want to address. It's not the only one. We are looking for more, challenge questions too. Basically, we have some initial results. Basically, the first task that was done was improve the parameterization of the force fields because it's a large system. We are talking here about a particle that was cut from the metal graphene framework, compounded by, for example, about 1,000 atoms. This is for quantum chemistry calculation. Even with a large computer, it's a quite expensive simulation to be done at different temperatures. Also, doing for a large number of systems. Then we are doing a reparameterization of different potential to improve the description, and then you have some preliminary results here. And I believe that with Kalindi, there's a manuscript that's in progress on that case here that we expect that's going to be finished, concluded before around July. I'll not say before July, but don't put pressure. Okay, we should not avoid that. But then here we have all the project number 18. In this case, we are looking for that case for the photovoltaics materials. And then one thing that I want to tell here that's quite important when you talk here in this case, we are talking about thin film chalcogenides. There's a good perspective that solar cells could be designed using layer materials. However, I want to point out very clear one that's very important to point out that chalcogenide materials, based layer materials, can be used in a wide range of applications. It goes from the photovoltaic supercapacitors, also sodium-ion batteries, oxygen reduction reactions, and as biomedicine and sensor applications. Means it's a class of materials that deserve to be explored a wide means further. Basically, not only because of the photovoltaics, but because of a wide range of applications that can be done for the future too. Okay, there are a large number of papers that have been explored different applications, and it's really, really an important case to go on. And here I show the case of perovskite. This one, perovskite is here. Ana Flavia already mentioned about that. We have a strong synergy with Ana Flavia at the moment. This one, I show one of her systems here that we have been calculated by Mayud as one of my PhD students, in which we are doing a partnership when you can combine expertise and try to help to explain experimental results. Basically, we want to try to explore perovskite quite well. And then you have here dye-statized solar cell. Basically, in this case, we are not looking at the screening of a large number of materials because these already have been, we are doing that in those two cases. But in this case here, you want to see how the solvent effects will affect the light absorption, electron transfer, and dye regeneration, and dye synthesis of solar cells. It goes in the way that we want to improve the methodology and how to obtain a very deep description of those type of systems. And then here, I showed us the two cases here. For example, the case of chalcogenides. We have quite a good number of students, PhD students, and also faculty members that collaborate on that project. Here I showed basically this was work that was published. In that case here, we are looking at, for example, how the size effects will affect the structure of those materials, and then how they affect then the electronic structure. Because once the atomic structure changes at the quantum site because of the size regime, that you decrease the size quite a lot, it will change the electronic structure and you affect the electronic properties and so on. And then this work was basically show that there is a phase transition between two types of different structures, one that's more stable at a full monolayer. However, once you decrease the size, you go to a phase transition to a different type of structure, and you change the electronic properties, and then it affects the results too. And then here I have a different case here. We study now how those layer materials are formed, starting from the basic unit here, a very small piece of unit here, and moves on to a large size particles. I don't show here all the size that we have done, but we have done up to a large, up to 300 or 500 atoms that we show here. And then this gives a good perspective for us how to explore the stability at the different sites and also the electronic properties and so on. And this work has been published too, just in the end of 2018. And then here, for example, in the case of perovskites, we want to, there's three roads that we want to explore. There's three directions that we want to explore here. The first one, I will say that's important, we want to push the collaboration, direct collaboration with Ana Flavia, the way we can support new experiments in different class of hybrid perovskite and so on. This work is in progress. We expect it's going to give a very nice publication future. But we also want to explore the 2D perovskite. We're going to get a more wide range of cases too. And this work also, Ana Flavia also conducts some experiments at the moment too that go in this direction too. I think this way is a way to go for it, because why don't we explore put too much effort on the 3D perovskites? Because there's a large number of studies that have been published in the last 3 years, which we can also learn from that, and then goes on. But however, you also have some studies in this direction here too, with the hybrid perovskite exploring different organics, for example, the methylammonium, the methylphosphonium, and the phenylamidine here, in these different type of systems here. But we also, in this case, we also try to explore how to use what the methodology could be very useful to describe those systems. If Van der Waals correction is important, or spin-off coupling, what we should use or should not. Then we have some PhD student work on this direction too. Here we have a postdoc and has a PhD student working in this direction too. Okay? And then here we have the dye synthesis solar cells. In that case, as you can see here, the goal is very clear what you are set up for us, because you have here one substrate, can be like a tin oxide, dioxide. You have here the dye, for example, and here is inside of a solution. Most of the calculators we have, most of the simulation that you see in the literature basically don't include those effects of the solvent, okay? But in that case, we want to include those effects of the solvent because they will affect the absorption spectrum, which is very important for the application of the photovoltaics. In this case, here we show here how this works, what questions that you have at the moment, and then what is the important part here. Well, also in this case, we combine force field and the high force field simulations at different temperatures and out as well, high-level quantum chemistry calculations, because we need to include also the quantum side, the quantum effects too, to get the absorption too. And here we show basically the highlight here. This shows the initial result that has been obtained. It means the approach that we are using at the moment is successful. What we need to do here is to improve further how to organize, to say we can explore now different substrates, means particle or a slab, a film, for example, and so on. This one's quite in good direction. And here we have the project number 19. On those projects here, it is basically we are looking at the energy storage in the perspective of batteries and supercapacitors. That's what topic was discussed this morning by Gustavo Dolbeck and Hudson Zanin. Basically, what we have here, for example, we want to explore different topologies for phosphonic liquids, for example, in this case, looking at electrolyte, and also look for different simulations concerning the ionic liquids, for example, use the constant potential and so on, and how to functionalize those electrolytes with different functional groups too, okay? Furthermore, we have a case here, we want to address too a new perspective to make energy harvested, use the vibration that you have on the system too, but in this case, it's not concerned with battery supercapacitor. I will just introduce it here, okay? In this case, in the case of batteries, we are not moving to the direction of lithium-ion or lithium-air batteries. Basically, we are looking at the case of sodium batteries, EO batteries, because it's a wide available material and has a low cost in the case, and it's not a technology that's already in place. Then from the perspective of atomic understanding, to understand the fundamentals of that, it is very important to study in that case because lithium-ion and lithium-air also have been widely studied from the point of view of the quantum chemistry too. But in that case, why you want to look for sodiums? Because of those properties here, as low vapor pressure too, good thermal stability, high boiling point. However, we have to also improve a lot of things here. This work is conducted by Luiz Gustavo, that stays in Ribeirão Preto, with his PhD student, Renato, that at the moment is doing a PhD sanduíche in Canada with Dr. Cartuner, okay? And then, in the case of supercapacitors, we have two faculty members who work on that. One is Eudes Filet, okay? It's from the Unifesp in São José dos Campos. Also, there's a collaboration also with Antenor Neto. Antenor Neto is member from the division 2, with support by Hudson Zanin. This means the integration of the division 4 with the division 2, because in this case, one guy is like Antenor is fully supported, means that his fellowship comes from division 2, but they also collaborate with Eudes, and on those topics here, when you try to explore different electrolytes, and also here have two publications that was published. Two of the Eudes published quite few papers in this direction here. That show two cases here, and also very important conclusions that have been obtained in the last of those two contributions. Based electrolytes from by use of similar volume show better performance in supercapacitor applications, and then so on. And then, in that case, we also have a different work going in the direction of supercapacitors that's conducted by Leonardo Siqueira in the Unifesp in Diadema. In that case, with three master students at the moment, Abner, Guilherme, and Pedro. And you are looking now on different perspectives in the case of supercapacitors, because you are trying to make the simulations now use a constant potential technique, which is a quite challenging one. However, it is able to explore the effects of considering different electrolytes and also different geometries and topologies, which can also important to address the problem of the capacitance and how the capacitance is changed by those effects too. And this work is in progress at the moment. This work here that will just show some few important highlights here was just submitted for Journal of Physical Chemistry last I think 1 or 2 months ago, and there's also in analysis. And beyond of that, of these two case battery supercapacitors, we are looking for new perspectives that we call energy recovery for electron wet. For example, we have a droplet of a liquid. For example, we have a true like a plate. If you make it vibrate strong mechanically, you can try to get some electricity from that to recover energy recover for that. In the case, we also can look at that using nano bridges and then for energy harvesting. Of course, it's a new idea that was just comes out like about 10 years ago, and then have a quite good perspective to convert to harvest energy in very small scale. However, quite high enough a possibility too in the future. Okay, this one is how to say is a quite a new project to how to explore beyond of the case of battery supercapacitors too. Okay, this is a more like long-range project too. And that case comes out to the last project, where in this case we are, what we are looking at this project. This project has a large, we are trying to you employ machine learning techniques and data mining algorithms in the way to explore a large number of data. For example, when you have a quantum chemistry data, this picture was built up of one of my students when he put here crude quantum chemistry data. I think this picture maybe looks like that means we have a large number of data. But we cannot say that's crude because it does not mean that we are doing the calculation, but we are not able to analyze it. Okay, but it's not true. What it means is the following. We have here a large number of data. Then you can get some quantum chemistry features from the data, but you also can use those data to train some machine learning algorithms like neural network. And from that one, we can try to go back and also to explore different properties at a lower computational cost, because quantum chemistry calculations at an initial level, they have a computational cost that's quite high. And beyond of that, we have some data mining algorithms which you can explore large number of data to try to get some patterns, or to identify some patterns that could be helpful to understand atomicity what you have in the result, that sometimes is hiding from our eyes in a first perspective, okay? And there's a lot of things that we are doing here, okay, in that case. One case that we show here, this work is conducted by Ronaldo Prat and also Mark Skillo, his students, and we collaborate with myself too. Basically, the first target that we have here, we are built up, using Coulomb matrix representation to represent how to convert a molecule in a vector that could be represented and used to extract some features, and of them it can be used to train a neural network and so on. Of course, this one here is one of the possible representations. There's a large number of representations that could be used. Some of them is more, suitable for some type of systems. Some of them is more suitable for different type of systems. However, one of the ones we understand how it works means that we are able to explore different properties. Because what's the idea? The idea is the following. Suppose you have a set of 1,000 molecules. Then you can train a neural network based on the data that you have, the quantum chemistry data. However, you want to calculate more 1,000 molecules, they are similar of those ones. In principle, with machine learning tools, you would not be able, you don't need to calculate the properties of the more 1,000 molecules again, because you can use the neural network just to extract this information based on what was learned from the first set. And this way is cheaper and also can provide a different perspective too for all the explore different perspectives. And then here, I just show one first case here that's published paper that we're going to submit next week. In this case, for example, we are already exploring not the machine learning itself, we are exploring the data mining techniques. In what case? This work is in collaboration with Jonathan, Ronaldo, Prati, Mark Skillis, and Juarez too, because what we have here is the following. We have a quantum chemistry data here, have a large number of data of results. In the case, we understand how the system gets more stable because you make a mixture of one oxide, like silver oxide and zirconium oxide. It's a type of material that's connected to division 3, that's important, in which we have a good expertise. And then we understand how the properties evolve, no problem, it's fine. But could we use some of type of technique, the data mining technique, like to obtain some correlation of the data and we get the same information? This was the first try that we did. It works pretty well because we get some information here from doing this analysis that is similar when you go deeper, we have a high training quantum chemistry, and then you get information there. However, using this analysis here, you get your data, run the algorithms, and the algorithm tells for you, for example, oh, there's a linear correlation between these two types of data, and it helps us to improve our understanding. And this one shows that the connection between the different members of our division is already helps to improve how to get better quality learning from that on, or say, how to improve our atomic understanding in material science. Basically, with that slide, I finished this, basically, the overview concerning the perspective that I provide from all the different 5 projects. And then here, I just show here what we are doing, we have done, and we are going to do, basically to provide integration within the division. This was a picture from our first workshop organized in October 2018, and here's a picture of our champion, Dr. Idranil, and myself here, all members from the division here. And this was a picture from the second workshop that was just happened in February, and show here Hudson Zanin, and show Professor Ernesto here from FISCAR too. It means that we are integrating with other divisions. I select those pictures, have a very good reason why I select those pictures, because we are showing that we are integrating it with the different divisions. This was one full day talks that was Gustavo Dolbeck, Hudson Zanin, also 2 members from Division 2, from Division 3, and then this was very helpful here is how the integration different poster sections here. The 2 workshops for us that were organized, we have an average of 40 posters per workshop at average. And one important point here, this one's a picture of what happens in the second workshop. Basically, the following. We have the goal, one workshop, the second workshop was 5 days from Monday to Friday. However, the faculty members, most of the faculty members just stayed 3 days. The remaining, but they will have a parallel section too. 3 days was dedicated to the training of the students. Means students that's from our division, and the students that also comes from different division, also too. This was an open, hands-on in computational material science and chemistry, and also we have 3 members that comes from outside from the scene that really want to enjoy and also to get some training from us. And then here we have a setup already 2 workshops. The third one, and number 4, one is going to happen in September now, 2019. Based on the discussion for all faculty members involved in our division, based on ab initio and force field molecular dynamic simulations, because the first one, the second workshop, focuses on quantum chemistry, and then we want to change the topics, provide them to go in different directions too, because we need this technique inside of our team. We want to provide the best training for our students. And then the workshop number 4 is going to happen in February 2020, and we define this in machine learning applied to material science with hands-on. Why we have up to 2020 a room to learn and improve our techniques in machine learning in a way that we can also train our students in Python and different techniques that could be useful. And then from that on, it could be help all the teams from the division. Of course, those workshops is also open for all the members from CINE. There's no problem with that. And then we are moving on that. Okay? But this one thing that will concern our division is to provide a very good training on computational tools, because once the students to exchange information between the students and also the faculty members too. Okay? This is really important for us. Here I show just a few highlights. Okay? Basically, what we want to tell is the following. Papers are coming out, okay, with a very good speed. We organize 2 workshops. There are more 2 to come. We already defined the topics. And then those workshops have provided a very good way how to integrate the members of the division and also integration for the division 4 with the remaining 3 divisions. That's very important for us. And also we obtained some additional funding from FAPESP for fellowships, like postdoc fellowships, and also some applications. And also CNPq grants was obtained by a few of our members from our division. And also we obtained some computational time at Santos Dumont, this National Laboratory of Computer Science. Basically, computational time for us, it means it's money, because it costs a lot to run there. Okay? And our infrastructure is in process at the moment. FAPESP is organized and importing. We expect in the next 2 months, 3 months, the cluster be already in Brazil, and then we can continue. We will have a more additional, to say, computational power to move on. Okay? Concerning the collaboration with the experiments that is involved in CINE, I want to show just to highlight 2 points. Is the collaboration with ELDIS and also Hudson. That's going very nicely. There's a bridge between them. The case is by the postdoc Antenor Neto, and also there's a collaboration that goes by myself with Ana Flávia, involves some PhD students, and also we're going to involve a postdoc in future too. I think this one's a very nice way to go. Okay? The future perspectives, basically, I not build up one specific slide for that, but what I want to say is the following. Some of the work that I showed before concerning the 5 projects, it indicates more or less a direction to where we are going, basically. But the workshops really provides the idea that I have how we should, say, emphasize to improve the training of the students inside the division, because it is a way, in the way, for example, you're going to get a better quality science that will be done. And finally, I just want to acknowledge the sponsor, the financial support, of course, from FAPESP and also from Shell. But I have to mention too, because many of our students that are in our team, I support with grants and fellowships from CNPq, and also CAPS too, and also obtain use computational power from the USP, the Computer Center from USP, and also from different institutions too, as well from the National Computational Center too. And of course, all the 5 institutions that's involved in our project, because we have members from USP, Unifesp, UFSCar, Federal University of ABC, and also NESP, all those universities have played a very important role, because they also have contributed to improve the work conditions for the local groups and so on. Okay, thank you very much for the attention.